Forging a singular path as an independent filmmaker whose minimalist, bucolic style has impressed the critics at the Berlin and Cannes film festivals, Kelly Reichardt shows us another America. A land of wandering outsiders and protagonists plagued by doubts. Her latest film, The Mastermind, stars Josh O'Connor as the unsuspecting orchestrator of a robbery in an art gallery. Kelly Reichardt, hello.
Hi.
You've often explored genre in your films, from the Western to the road trip, and now The Mastermind's your take on the Heist movie. I wondered what it was that appealed to you about the codes of this sort of film.
I really just kind of fell into it because I found a story. It was the 50th anniversary of 4 teenage girls who went to the museum to do their homework, and 2 of them went into the museum and 2 of them stayed in a car, and they got tangled up in this heist that happened in 1972 in Worcester, Massachusetts. And really, it was that story that got me started on it. So.
And your film is set in the 70s. It feels like a golden age for art robberies. There were so many high-profile thefts.
There was a lot of snatch and grabs. My film is in 1970, so not quite in the 70s yet, but it was a time where regional museums, or galleries, museums, they had these circular drives, making it quite easy. The guards were retirees, volunteers, and all before the sort of infamous Gardner Museum. There were a lot of these sort of snatch and grabs.
Paintings are all in one small gallery on the 2nd floor. Paintings come off the wall.
They're cleaning up in there.
Go into the cases, down to the waiting car.
JB?
Yeah, the guys are here. They're leaving in a minute.
And of course, life imitated art just shortly after your film premiered here in Paris. The Louvre had a break-in, priceless objects stolen. What did you think when you saw that?
Well, it was very nice timing, because it was right when my film was opening around the rest of the world, not in France yet. Yeah, so that was but fascinating that it still goes on. I mean, art thievery just always continues.
And it seems just as compelling today.
Completely. That was a complicated one, really, yeah.
And I believe you're a fan of 2 French directors in particular, Robert Bresson and Jean-Pierre Melville, very well known for crime thrillers, heists. What were some of their filmmaking practices that you wanted to integrate into your own work?
I'm not sure I love those directors, and you know, I've been teaching film for 30 years, so it's hard for me to know when their filmmaking now is just kind of part of my own filmmaking DNA in a way. I mean, they're important to me, so I'm not sure I exactly was thinking directly for this film. They're in there, as with the Hollywood New Wave films of the 70s, where, you know, the anti-hero takes to the road to find himself, and nothing quite goes right.
Don't take it out on me! What could I do? This is all your fault, JB!
I just need a little time to get some things straight. Are these clean?
Art is a driving force in the narrative of The Mastermind, but it's also part of the visual language of the film. We see reproductions of Arthur Dove's paintings, and there's a beautiful Henry Moore sculpture outside the museum. What role do the visual arts play in your work and in your life?
Well, the last 2 films have been particularly focused on art, showing up about some art makers, and then this about an art thief. I mean, I teach at a liberal arts school. I live part-time in New York City, so I like to take in as much as I can. You know, and as much as you're thinking about films, like you were mentioning Melville, whatever, there's also, you know, artists whose work plays a part and that can be shared with the crew, you know, and get us all on the same page for a vibe, a color, a sort of
And the Mastermind asks a very practical question, in fact. How do you translate a creative act, an artistic object, into money? It's something that a thief has to ask himself, and a working artist like yourself as well. Right. How does that question feel to you as someone who makes their living from art?
I make my living teaching, and so I've had a teaching job for the last 30 years, which is very lucky and great. So it allows me to make films that, you know, are about people making art or stealing milk or, you know, smaller films, stories. Just is a different way to try to understand the world. Or now is a way of just where news is at you every second, just as a breath of something that just can open you up more than beat you down, I guess.
Right. No more chipping away at the edges, huh? This time you blown it all up.
Yeah, you really made Fred's week. All he does is walk around and read the paper. But what do you say we stop talking about it for now, because I find it kind of upsetting.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
And your films are often set in the quieter corners of the United States, perhaps towns or rural areas that don't dominate the headlines. And at a time when America seems extremely divided, things are increasingly politicized, how do you see the reality in that small to medium town America?
It depends where that town is. I mean, if that town, like Mastermind, is set in the East Coast, where there would have been a lot of regional museums and that people would have wanted to support, but a lot of small towns don't, you know, in different parts of the place in the country, would never want their tax dollars going to a museum, much less a school or anything, really. So it would really depend what, if you were on a coast mostly, or what city you were in. I guess that art is mostly asking questions and wants you show you something in a different way. And politics wants you to give you an answer and reinforce what you're already feeling, which is where I guess our country is stuck.
And given the political climate right now, how do you see the prospects for that sort of art, like you say, which asks questions, which perhaps challenges a black and white vision of the world?
Well, everything's in jeopardy now. Certainly liberal arts schools, any national art kind of institution, but it's also true for micro cinemas and small publishing companies. Everyone's under complete threat. On the other hand, this isn't even near our country's biggest problem right now. So I don't know, everything's imploding. And it feels like unfair to even consider it as like such an important thing. On the other hand, it's like where you go, it's a bomb, you know, and where you go and it makes what you want civilized world to be, you know, it gives you, I think it's important that people keep making art so that we can remind ourselves like what we want the world to be.
And one uplifting idea in your cinema is one of friendship, of loyalty, or the limits of that loyalty. It's a thread that runs through your films, Wendy and Lucy, the two protagonists of First Cow. I wondered if that was inspired by your own friendships, partnerships you've experienced, and why that's so interesting to you.
Well, I've often worked with the writer Jonathan Raymond, who's a very good friend of mine, and he will say that our writing sessions are really like gossip sessions, right? Just trying to figure out the people we know, how like you come up with a character and you think like, are they a little bit like this person, a little bit like that person, you know? We're both intrigued with the small politics of life that you can more get your arms around, whether that's like a cheese license in Night Moves or the politics of the kiln in the ceramic shop and showing up. So that's kind of where we keep our eye on, yeah.
And your cinematic style is often described as minimalist, as quiet. Your films invite us to sit with your characters during daily tasks, these micro dramas, I guess, moments of reflection. It really seems at odds with the sort of fast-paced, attention-grabbing productions of the algorithm-driven era that we're seeing a lot of. How do you see the future for truly independent cinema?
Like I said, now I'm just worried about the future, you know. Somehow we have masked men breaking into people's houses and dragging them away. So yeah, the future of film is probably low on the pecking order, but I never know, you know. As long as I've been making films, people have been telling me it's the end of independent cinema for whatever reason. And it's definitely hard. There are fewer distributors, but someone always seems to crop up that does put out this work. I mean, if you look at the films that came out this year, a lot of really interesting films were made in America this year. I thought we had a really, like, it wasn't all franchise. That wasn't the main story. Oh gosh, I am not the person with the bird's eye view of how the world will turn out, I have to say.
But you're someone who is showing up and making films.
For as long as I can, as long as I'm allowed, yeah.
Kelly Reichardt, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
I sure do appreciate the fact that someone I know and love is gonna come blow my mind.
I'm gonna hang up the phone now, James.
Terry, wait.